Welcome to Calvary Fellowship in Manchester, New Hampshire. We meet here in Manchester every Sunday to worship in song and in the Word of God. We hope you are encouraged by the music and the teaching.
Great are you, Lord, mighty in strength. You are faithful, you will ever be. We will praise you all of our days. It's for your glory, we offer everything. Raise your hands, all you nations, shout to God, all creation. How awesome is the Lord Most High. We will praise you together, for now and forever. How awesome is the Lord Most High.
Continuing today, of course, in the Gospel of John, in chapter 11, a very familiar story, the shortest verse in the Bible that everybody memorizes. Jesus wept, so everybody remembers that one. That's the shortest one. But it's an interesting story because it shows a very personal nature of Christ. We've been dealing with crowds in the past, we've been dealing with the Pharisees, and now he's dealing on a very personal nature of who God is. God is love. And so we see basically here what that love manifests, and it actually sets a model for us as to what's expected of us as being known by our love for others. So it begins, it says, now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. Now we know from the other Gospels that Lazarus, Mary and Martha were very good friends of Jesus. Mary was one that Jesus personally had healed, and so he's very close to this particular family. In verse 2 it says, it was that Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. And remember that story where she uses the very expensive oil, and Judas, of course, said that money could be used for the poor. He really meant he was going to use it. Sort of like the government, we're going to take the money from you and help the poor. Never gets beyond the government, but that's what Judas had in mind when he said, what a waste of using it for something like that, when we could have sold it for 300 denarii and we could have helped the poor, but he was helping himself. So this is that Mary. So she had this kind of personal relationship with Jesus, and we know we have the Mary and Martha story, that when Jesus went to visit at their home, Martha, being the very good hostess, was very busy getting all the things in place, and Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet. And Martha complained, she said, Jesus, can't you have her come and help me? She said, Martha, she's doing the more important thing, because obviously he's not going to be with them that long. So this is that family. He's very close to the family, very close, both Mary and Martha. One has a servant spirit. They both have servant spirits, but one is more concerned with the outward service, and the other is more concerned with learning from the Lord. So it's their brother, Lazarus, who is now seriously ill. Therefore, verse 3, the sister sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. So Jesus hears, he gets a message that this man that he's very close to is sick. But then we see something unusual here. It says, when Jesus heard that, he said, the sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Sort of interesting, because he's well aware of why the sickness is taking place. God knows all things. He's omnipotent. So he knows that this isn't going to cause his physical death at this particular time. Jesus is going to be able to restore him. He will die eventually. But he said this sickness at this point is occurring in order for the Son of God to be glorified. Jesus is going to be able to raise him from the dead, which obviously nobody's been able to do that before or since. So he knows that's the ultimate reason for it occurring, is that God will be glorified. Jesus, will be glorified by the event that's going to take place. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. You go, that doesn't sound like a sense of urgency. Wait a minute, they said he's sick, he may be dying, why don't you rush off? Now they're about a day's journey away. So it took a day for the person to get there to tell him about it, and then he's going to wait 2 days, and then it's going to take a day journey to get to where they are. So it's going to be a period of 4 days before he actually gets to the scene of Lazarus' death. Then after this, he said to the disciples, let us go to Judea again, because this is where they live in a suburb of Jerusalem. So he tells the disciples, we're going to go back there. Well, now we've seen up in the last couple of chapters that they're already planning on killing Jesus. And so he's left that area. In fact, last time we saw him, he was on the other side of the Jordan. And so now to go back is going to be sort of risky because he knows the plot to kill him has been increasing over a period of time. In fact, when he went up on the Feast of Tabernacles, they were concerned about it at that time. Why are you going, knowing that there's a risk involved? The disciples said to him, Rabbi, lately the Jews sought to stone you. Are you going there again? You know the risk involved. So we saw actually that Jesus waited once he got the message about the man being seriously ill. And that, for us, that's, we're impatient. We want God to act right away. But God keeps his promises. He said this isn't going to be a sickness unto death. So he said that's what's going to happen. Trust God. That's what's going to happen. Even though it looks totally wrong that he's waiting. But God said it's not going to result in death. So sometimes he delays what he's doing in order to lead to a greater blessing. We may not be able to see the full picture, but he does. So here he's waited, but now he's taking a risk. Disciples warned him that his life was in danger, but he's going to go anyway. Now he's going to use the event, obviously, also to strengthen the faith of his disciples, because they're realizing that there's a risk involved. Jesus answered said, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if he walks in the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him." He's not talking about literally day and night. He's talking about being in the light, being with Jesus. If you're walking with Jesus, then you don't have to worry about stumbling. If you're groping in the dark, if you are not walking with the Lord, if you're trying to do it in your own strength, if you're concerned about the world instead of God, then you're going to be in the difficulties of being in the darkness. And these things he said, and after that he said to them, "Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up." So he's sleeping, so now where's the urgency? Why are we going to Judea? His disciples said in verse 12, "Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get well." Why should we take the risk? We'll just wait here. You said he's only sleeping, and he's going to wake up. Why do you have to go wake him up? However, Jesus spoke of his death that they thought that he was speaking about taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus said to them plainly, "Lazarus is dead, and I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him." They go, "Wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. You're glad for our sake that he died, that we weren't there, that I couldn't have saved him at the time. That seems sort of strange." Then Thomas, who's called the twin, Thomas, later known as Doubting Thomas, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us go also, that we may die with him." So good cheerful Thomas. Forget what he's going to heal the guy, but we're going to go, we're all going to get killed. We might as well go anyway. If Jesus is willing to go, we'll die with Jesus. So it's nice that he has this bravado about him. So when Jesus came, he found that he was already been in the tomb 4 days. Remember, a day to get the message to him. 2 days that he waited, another day to go back. So it's been 4 days. He died, obviously, shortly after they got the message, while they were en route bringing the message to him. 4 days is quite a while. Jesus was resurrected in 3 days. Lazarus has been on the ground for 4 days already in the tomb. Now, Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away. And many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary was sitting in the house. So it's interesting. Martha goes out to meet him. Mary, who's always trusts the Lord, Mary waits at home. So we see that we've got a couple of things occurring here. Love comforts. Jesus is going to comfort the sisters. As soon as Martha gets to him, Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died."